Hello, Algebra 1 students, and welcome to the 9-6 video on the quadratic formula and the discriminant. I know we're kind of skipping around here in topic 9. Again, we just try to hit the important topics that you may see on the state tests, right? So we're going to focus more on what's called the quadratic formula, right? So we're not going to really discuss the discriminant here. So the beauty of the quadratic formula is, we talked about factoring, right? That is limited, right? We use factoring when our equation is x squared plus bx plus c, right? No a value, right? A of 1. Well, here we're going to have a lot more equations, maybe that have a values, or that might not be factorable in the first place. We're also going to use this for word problems, right? So our words, right? So again, the quadratic form is much more beneficial. You'll be given it. It's not something you have to memorize. And again, like I said, I shouldn't say beneficial. It's just more universal. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at it. Okay. So it says, how can you use the quadratic formula to find the solutions of x squared minus 7x equals, or x squared minus 7 equals 4x. Okay. So if you take a look at this quadratic equation, right? So I want to first set it equal to 0. So that does not change. We still need to put it in standard form. So to do that, I need to move the 4x to the left. It's a positive 4x, so I will subtract it on both sides. Now again, it's an x term. It's not going to combine with x squared or the minus 7 because those are all not like terms. So we'll put it in standard form, x squared minus 4x minus 7 equals 0. So you may say, hey, let's look to factor this, right? Well, if I draw my big X, C is negative 7. Signs are different. One's plus, one's minus. My B is negative 4. So the question is, what two numbers multiply to 7 and are going to subtract to get 4? Well, 7 is prime. It only has one set of factors, 1 and 7. And when you subtract 1 and 7, you get 6. That's not right. So there's no other thing we can do to factor this, right? This is not factorable. So therefore, we have this fun formula right here called the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Notice that this fraction part goes all the way across. A lot of people want to cut it short underneath the square root. No, it goes all the way across. So what we need to do is we need to take our formula and our equation. I'll write it again here. X squared minus 4x minus 7 equals 0. Identify your a, b, and c. So the a value is 1. So a is 1. The b value is negative 4, and your c value is negative 7, right? A, b, and c. If you want to write a equals 1, b equals, you can do that. It's fine. So now we're just going to plug the numbers in. And whenever you plug them in, make sure you use parentheses, please. Right? Everything gets its own set of parentheses. Okay. So x equals. So negative. So then my b value is negative 4. Again, don't be that person that thinks that negative sign is the negative for the negative 4. No, that negative, I almost like to think of that as the word opposite. It's the opposite of b, just like when we did the vertex for the standard form, right? Opposite of b over 2a, right? Double A. Plus or minus. Now, this plus or minus is important because that is where you're going to get your two solutions from, right? Again, if you remember from the 9-2 video, right? Typically, you get two solutions, two x-intercepts. Well, the same thing here. Okay, plus or minus. I'm going to put the square root in a second. So your b is negative 4 squared minus 4. The minus 4 is part of the formula. It's always there. Your a value is 1. Your c value is negative 7. That all goes inside a square root. And this is all over double A, so 2 times A. So now what I want to do is I want to get three numbers. I'm going to simplify the thing in front of the plus or minus. I want to simplify what's inside the square root, and I want to simplify the denominator. So we get x equals, well, negative 4 is 4. Plus or minus. I would just type what's inside here. I'll do it in purple. I would just type what's inside here in the calculator, right? This is 16 plus 28. But again, a calculator can do it for you. That's 44. So that's inside the square root, 44. And that's all over 2, because 2 times 1 is 2. And now, you're going to get two solutions. And those two solutions are x equals 4 plus the square root of 44, all divided by 2. And x equals 4 minus the square root of 44, all divided by 2. Now, if you're using Desmos, you just type this as it looks, and we're going to round to the nearest hundredth. But if you're using a graphing calculator or some calculator that might not be Desmos, you might have to put this top thing in parentheses before you divide by 2. Same thing here. But in Desmos, we do not. So I'm going to type these two fractions in Desmos and get my two solutions rounded to 2 decimals, right? There's a theme of 2, 2, 2. Okay, so I'm going to make this go away. Let's go to Desmos. Okay, so I will type my fraction bar first. So 4 plus square root of. Oh, notice what happened, right? I got to put it back up here. Square root of 44 divided by 2. So this is the positive solution, right? I shouldn't say positive. This is one of the solutions. So x equals, and we'll round that to the nearest hundredth, so that 1 gets rounded up to a 2 by the 6. X equals 5.32, so that's one solution. And now you simply have to take this and change that to a minus sign. That's easy, that's all. And now we get negative 1.31. And again, that's 6 rounds that 1 up to a 2. A lot of times that happens. The way the decimals ends are pretty similar. So this is negative 1.32. And there are our 2 x-intercepts for this problem. Never going to find that using factoring. So that's why the quadratic formula is very important. Perfect. All right, so there's example 1. All right, next example. So now we're going to do a couple word problems, right? Okay, so this is the function show represents the height of a frog x seconds after it jumps off the rock. How many seconds is the frog in the air before it lands on the ground? Okay, so this problem here, right, is represents this frog jumping, right? This is actually that vertical velocity formula, if you remember, from topic 8. So negative 16 t squared plus v sub 0 t plus h sub 0. Again, that's just extra stuff for you to know. But again, this is my quadratic in standard form. Now, the most important thing in this problem is lands on the ground. When this frog lands on the ground, your height, or your y value in this case, is going to be 0. We are going to plug that in for that y right there. So now my equation will say, and I'll do it right here, negative 16t squared plus 10t plus 0.75 equals 0. And now, because that says equals 0, we can find the solutions using the quadratic formula. A is negative 16, B is 10, C is 0.75. And again, what we're looking for is we're looking for this time right there, that x-intercept, which will be one of the solutions. It'll be the positive solution. There's another solution. If you go back here, there's another solution that's going to be a negative. But we don't want that. That's going back in time. We're going to go forward. Okay, so to do this, we're going to use the quadratic formula. Now, I love this picture of this frog jumping, but I wish it wasn't there. Sorry for taking up all the space. So the quadratic formula. So we're going to use t instead of x, but this is just x, right? So t equals. So negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all under the square root all over 2a. Okay, so I'm going to turn it to blue. Okay, so again, negative in parentheses, we're going to put 10 plus or minus. I'm going to put 10 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 0.75. Sorry for squishing it there. All over this, or all under the square root. Divided by, and it's 2 times negative 16. Okay, so I'm going to come down here with it. So t equals, so negative 10 is just negative 10, plus or minus. I'm going to do that in a calculator off to the side. I'm not going to go to Desmos. I don't want to ruin my work here. This will not be a fun number, I don't think. So 10 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 0.75. So I got 148. It's not bad. So that's inside my square root. So square root of 148 all over negative 32. And now again, we have 2 problems to do. The first problem is t equals negative 10 plus the square root of 148 all over negative 32. And the second problem is t equals negative 10 minus the square root of 148 all over negative 32. Okay, so I'll let you copy that down, and then we'll go to Desmos and find our 2 times, right? Again, t is just x. I'm just using the variable that they left. Okay, so let's go do it, right? 148. And I got to remember those numbers. Okay, so in Desmos, we're going to do fraction bar. So it's negative 10 plus the square root of, no, notice it makes it go away. Sorry, the square root of, this bar's in my way. There we go, it's better. Okay, square root of 148 all over negative 32. And there's that negative solution, right? I still want you to write it down on your paper so you know that you got 2. So we'll go to the nearest hundredth. So t equals that 7 around the 6 up to a 7, so negative 0.07, right? That would be in seconds, but we're not going to include that as our answer. That's not it, right? Show me this, though. So now we just simply go back. We go back and we change the minus sign to a plus sign, or the plus sign to a minus sign. Boom. And there we go. Okay. And my answer here is going to be rounded to the nearest hundredth. The 9 stays the same because the 2 doesn't change. So my second time is 0.69, and that would be in seconds. And that is how long it takes the frog to jump and land, 0.69 seconds. Which makes sense because the frog's not in the air for very long, right? Gravity takes care of it, takes care of that frog. All right, perfect. Okay, let's do one more problem, another word problem together. It's going to look familiar, right? One of those frame questions, if you remember, from way back in topic 7.